Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're about 4 minutes away. I thought people will pile in on a Saturday at their leisure. But in the meantime, we'll be speaking with our guest speaker today, Lamont Orange. He happens to be the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer for Netskope. He's here, and we'll be getting started in a couple of minutes. So just sit tight. And thanks for coming. Hey, Manuel. Hey, Manny. Thanks for coming in from the UK. And that is a good distance to travel. What is it, about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock there at night tonight? Either way, thanks for coming and welcome.
Yeah, it's 6:58 p.m. in UK now, and
Good.
it looks good to join. I want to listen more. I've already applied for the internship, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Well, great. Anything we can do here at the Impact Interview? We've been around for like, Cyversity has been around in one form or another for 8 years, but and I've been here with them for at least 7, I think, of those 8. And nonetheless, anything that we can do here and I can do to help you land that internship, let's have a conversation offline, and I'll help you find your way through that whole malaise, that whole process.
That's very great. Thank you so much.
And thanks for coming, Emmanuel. Appreciate the trip.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No doubt. Dio, how are you, sir? I think you're on mute, but I see you in. Oh, well, you're not on mute.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. How are you, sir? I know it's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in Uganda. I know that.
9 actually.
9 o'clock. Okay, great. Oh, great. Have you been?
Great. I think I can relate with Emmanuel's state of looking for internship positions.
Right.
Yeah, but otherwise, I'm okay. Great to be here.
Our guest speaker, Lamont Orange, the CISO from Netskope. I just noticed that the company, and I happen to work with Netskope as well, our company had 2 postings, one for Red Team and one for GRC. So I'm not sure if either one of those fit into your status or your model, but if you will, you want to have a conversation offline, happy to talk with you about that, Lamont. Dio.
And I would love to connect with you offline. Good afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to the conversation.
There he is. That is Lamont Orange, extraordinaire. You guys are going to be treated to a great conversation today. I've spoken to Lamont a little bit before, and we've fashioned some questions. But you know how we work here, right? You know how we work here. If you've got a question, don't wait. Raise your hand, ask the question, especially if you're a young guy like Jordan Franklin, who's just a young mentee getting ready to get his career started, young 19-year-old guy. Ask your question. Come off mute. Ask your question. Don't worry about being shy or any apprehension. Just come on stage, ask your question, and you'll be greeted warmly here at the Impact Interview. There's my mentee. There he is. No, not even my mentee, my former mentee. He's a big time dude now, Carlos Sandoval. How are you, sir? You're on mute, big dog.
Doing good, David. How are you?
Man, I can't complain. I still need to talk to you about a couple of things, but I'm going to certainly need your help. But I'm glad you're here today because I know you. The last time we had our conference in Orlando, I introduced you to Netskope, and I introduced you to one of Lamont's folks in Lamont's team, Erica. But we'll talk more about that later. But I think we're just about at time. We're a little past time, so I'm going to get myself a little bit visible here. And you guys who've been here and more that are coming, you know the routine. I go through this little bit of a conversation early on just so we know who we are and what we're talking about. This is Cyversity's Engage. It's our impact interview series where we interview individuals who have and are making an impact in the industry, in the cybersecurity industry. You know Cyversity to be an organization that is focused on women and minorities, and we do that through our process of consistently providing representation for women and minorities in cybersecurity. And we do that through programs that are definitely designed to help foster recruitment, inclusion, equity, retention, sponsorships, apprenticeships, full-time positions. So Cyversity has been doing this in one name or another. We started it as the International Consortium of Minority Cybersecurity Professionals. That's a lot to say, and we shortened that to Cyversity, where cyber meets diversity. Cyversity. That's how those two came together. Today we're going to be talking to Lamont Orange. Right, Lamont Orange is an extraordinary gentleman, and I like to call him extraordinary brother, who has worked in cybersecurity for quite some time. He's had an extraordinary career. We're going to learn some personal things about him. We're going to learn some professional things about him, and then round off the conversation by talking about what Cyversity and Netskope are doing together to focus on the youth, focus on women in.
I think he's coming back. He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
We've been in membership programs, but we'll get to this part about muting your phones in a second, or muting yourself in a second. Oh, it's me. So that was me, right? I'm the one that lost his internet for a second there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you,
We
David.
got you now.
Thanks very much. Sorry about that, fellas. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where you left off, but I was at the point of talking about Cyversity as a membership organization. You can scan that code there, that QR code there to get more information about being a member. And also, as a membership organization, we ask students to invest $20 in themselves and professionals to invest $20 a year in membership. And here are some of the things that you get. Of course, with membership, there's benefits. And so here are the benefits, some of the benefits that we speak about very boldly and loudly and speak to them. There's career exploration. The CyberSeek is just one of the tools that we use to help you flesh out where you are in your career, what's next and what you should be doing. Of course, there are skills assessments tools like Competency Core and a couple of others. Our tool base has grown some since our last development, and so you'll see that there are things that we've developed as we go through our process or as we learn more about Cyversity. We also help you develop your career through engage events like this one, scholarship programs, training programs, mentorship programs, and a host of other programs that are also coming online as we grow and develop and change and grow and develop our leadership. New things are coming, especially since we have some new leaders coming into the fold. Lastly, we help you connect through networking and local chapter events. I happen to be involved with the Austin chapter, Austin, Texas chapter. I'm the president of that chapter and the vice president of the Texas chapter. And this is how we begin to grow ourselves locally. I know there's a chat there. Let me see what that's saying. Hey, Bernardo. Bernardo Emmanuel's from London. So I'll answer that for him, but we'll get into this more. Our next, let me see, make sure I've got this right here. These are our topic areas: career development, career spotlighting. These are our core areas: transitioning and leadership and tech talk, and some of that you'll hear today. Over the course of the year, we focus on a couple of diversity highlights. As you can see on the screen, I hope you can see that on the screen. Upcoming in September will be it'll be Latino, Hispanic, and Latino Heritage Month, and then after that is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, Native American and Military Veterans Month. And Cyversity is now taking a real strong approach toward the veteran community, because there's some very specific needs there that we're looking to accomplish. And in December, there's disability awareness. Now, ground rules, right? Mute your phones, mute your computers so that the background noise is eliminated. It's going to be about a 45-minute conversation. I'm sure Lamont and I can speak for more than 45 minutes easily, gleefully, and with much glib. But for 45 minutes, we're going to have this conversation. Of course, there's a question and answer at the end of it, end the conversation, and put going to be a link that I'm going to put and tell us what you thought about our conversation today and how we did, and if we covered good topics for you, or if it was just a waste of your Saturday time. But I don't think that's the case. But happy to have you here. Now, let me get back to our center stage here. Again, Lamont, good to see you. This is Dave. This is Dave Lamont. How are you, sir?
I am doing great.
you
Thanks for
go.
having me as part of the conversation. And I like to see all the faces and names. It's all good. But
like
we
we
like to
like
get
that
to know you
too.
guys more, a little bit better.
Absolutely. Hey, so Lamont, first of all, really thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. I know you're a busy guy, always on the move, always doing some big things, not just for Netskope, who we both work with and represent, but also for the community, the cybersecurity community at large. You've got a real big name in the community. When we put this out on LinkedIn, it was like a fury of responses, which was really good. And so we really are pleased and blessed to have you with us today. I usually like starting out questions, just some really basic questions, just to like, who is Lamont? Who is this guy that we're about to listen to and talk to? Just want to know where you're from, Lamont, your process to get to where you are. We like our folks to know that not just anybody, but you're a brother from the community. I'll say that. How's that? Brother from the community that's
That
made his
sounds
way to
good.
yeah. So yeah. So yes, Lamont, share with us who you are, please.
Sure. So my name is Lamont Orange. It's a mystery where I live generally because I say one thing in LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is absolutely the truth. But everybody believes I live in either Silicon Valley or Austin, Texas. Generally, that's where everybody thinks I live. So I've been in St. Louis, born and raised St. Louis.
Wow.
I have a computer science degree from one of the universities around science and technology here. There wasn't cyber when I was going through school. It was only computer science or some sort of engineering. And I've been in the field, I'll say, before it was really named cyber security. And we'll get to some of that when we talk a little bit more about my background. I think one of the things that when I talk to technologists, they all seem to have the same type of hobby of complication. So you either like music or you like food. I like them both. So if I wasn't doing this, I took many culinary classes at the same time I was doing my computer science thing, and then decided that that would be my hobby. But food is my other hobby and love, and especially coffee. I've been a serial entrepreneur, just all kinds of different businesses, as I'll say, to keep my mind stimulated. And in some communities, they call it the hustle. It's the side hustle of things to do. So I decided that I wanted to open up a coffee house. My wife and I did. We opened up a coffee house. And we went head to head with Starbucks, and we waited to see who could go out of business last. And I'd say we was the last company standing, so we beat Starbucks. But good. It was a good learning opportunity for sure. And being your own business person, I take a lot of those skills and some of my hobbies or side hustles and put them into my daily job, because I think it just makes you well-rounded and understanding that cybersecurity is, you tie it back, it's a business decision, it's business risk. Don't think about it as security for security's sake. You're actually, letting the business know if you want to innovate and do these things that make $100 million, fantastic. But if you keep doing it this way, we're going to pay $200 million in fines. Not so good, right? When you think about the business equation, and then it comes back to, well, how do we do this the right way? And I think a lot of those discussions really helped me from being my own entrepreneur. I also invest in cyber startup companies. I advise them, invest in them, mentor them. Again, it's just a holistic, I guess, approach of sometimes, even though you think that you're separating yourself from your hobbies or your hustles, those are transferable skills and how you can lead through and be very successful with your passion, which essentially is something in technology. And you'll hear me go back and forth sometime on cyber technology, things of this nature. I think this is part of the headline that, cybersecurity, negative unemployment. How big is it? Everybody's a hacker, maybe. And that's the whole appeal to it and all of that. So I'll go back to technology. Cyber has so much to offer. Technology has so much to offer. And I know we'll get into some of that, but to sum up the question, I am a technologist, an investor, inventor. I have a few patents out there. I like to cook. I like to drink good coffee, not regular coffee. If we all in the same room and you're talking about Folgers of Maxwell House, we're gonna have a problem. We got to get some good coffee. And what else would you like to know? My path. I think you said my path to get to CISO. Very interesting path. And the reason I say it's interesting is because there was no path for CISO. There wasn't any of these CISO things when I was growing up. I had hoped to be in IT. That's why I went to got a computer science degree. I was very serious about I wanted to be a developer. I like what I saw when I went and looked at talked to engineers in the profession. I didn't like people very much either, so I'm fine. Let me develop some code, eat my lunch at my desk, and just leave me alone to do my thing. And so I got indoctrinated to that. And, in my first job, for those that are in the Midwest, especially Chicagoland area, well, I'll say US if you think about it. You ever heard of Terminex? You ever heard of True Green, Kimlon? The Terminex, they're a pest service. They're like Orkin. The parent company for those organizations that I just mentioned was called ServiceMaster. And it was the model of the company was all first of all, servants of all, and believe that. So there was a bunch of services under it. And I ended up in a section of the business called plant operations and management. And what the task was to take Honeywell systems that are in schools, K through 12, and in colleges and universities, and the big burners and turbines and all of that stuff, automate them, make them more efficient. So lots of coding, lots of interface. I got exactly what I wanted, to be left alone and all of that good stuff. And I was like, this is horrible. I don't want to do this anymore. And I work with people that don't have. I'm a young guy, first of all, and everybody else is, they've been turning the knobs pretty much on these boilers and all of this thing quite some time. So they don't have the same humor and the same levity that I have going into it. I'm sitting there trying to make this thing work. And the control system was called FireEye. So if you know now, FireEye today is a big security company. No, this was a boiler control. And so I am trying to interface all of these systems into these boilers to make the schools and the classrooms hot and cold when people are there, and go down some when people are not there, save the universities and the campuses some money. I thought I did my job well, and I put a little fun stuff in the code, like make it say I'll fall in and I can't get up, and all those types of things when it broke. And nobody saw that as humorous, but other than me, except for when there was a system. This is my funniest story ever. There was a system I interfaced with. It was for a gymnasium for a basketball tournament. We all know basketball tournaments are pretty popular, at least in the US, especially in high school, good high schools that have great basketball teams. So you pack that stadium, that's a moneymaker, it's a fundraiser for the school. The team gets notoriety and everything. And my job was to turn on these systems to make sure that the gymnasium is warm when people come in and cold when they get out. So, you know, I did what I was supposed to do. I went on vacation. The system did exactly what it was supposed to do, except it got stuck in a for loop. Everybody knows what a for loop is, right? It's like if you know, for this variable do these things. So it was nested inside of an if then loop, and the for just kept running and kept running. What that means is that boiler builds up pressure and it doesn't release it. And so the boiler got to about 4 feet off the ground, and somebody decided to page me on my Sky pager at the time. So I'm dating myself. I actually had the Sky pager. And they said, hey, the boiler is about 4 feet tall. I said, great, I'm 6 feet tall, so it's not taller than me. What do you guys need? And they were said, so it's floating. It's literally floating. And this is like a 5-ton thing, a 5-ton item that's floating. And they said, so what do we need to do? I said, well, you need to connect me to that system via a 33 baud dial-up modem. I dial in, and it took a while to negotiate, and they say, oh, it's getting taller, it's 5 feet. So great, we got till 6. 6 is when we need to evacuate the building, because something crazy about to happen. And so I get in there, and I found out the problem, and he said, oh, we're about 5'2", 5'3". I said, okay, we're good. I know what the problem is. Let me fix it. I'm fixing the problem. And I tell them, is anybody near the boiler? They say, yeah, we're standing like right by it. I said, well, get out the room and let me know you're out the room and you close the door. I hit enter, and everybody heard a boom, because 5 tons just hit the ground. And they're like, so are we good to go? I said, yeah, did the ignition come back on? The fire light up? He was like, yeah. I was like, it's going to heat back up and everything be great. And that's when I decided I didn't want to do programming anymore. I got a job. I applied for a job at Ernst & Young, and that began my security career.
There you
Now,
go.
yes, what will
Wow.
happen? What's the importance of 5 feet and 6 feet? 6 feet, a 5-ton boiler with that much pressure in it, we shoot through a wall of an auditorium or a gymnasium like a missile, and it'll take every row with it that's in its path. That's when I decided I don't want to do that no more.
That sounds scary and exciting all at the same time.
So
I
I
mean,
went for a
so-
different level of excitement. I decided I wanted to go to Ernst & Young and do audit support. How exciting was that?
Audit support? I'm not
Audit
so sure. I'm
support,
not supporting. Well, you know, it all depends on who and what you're auditing, right? I mean, if it's something back in the day, if it's something like a hospital, it may not be that exciting. But if it's something like oil and gas or aerospace, then that kind of audit is exceedingly exciting. So
It is Big Four. And you know, it's in support of the financial audit. You know how
No
it
doubt.
goes. That was
No
all
doubt.
technology. That was the technology component
uh,
at that time. And it was we call it a SAS 70. Back then it was
Yeah.
now it's a SOC 1, SOC 2
Socrates,
report.
yeah.
And so it was auditing, you know, these companies had systems and they had data centers or computer rooms. And if they said they locked the door, you know, you go in there and make sure you lock the door. If they said they had a password policy, show me you got a password policy. And, you know, that's kind of what the job was for my, I'd say, first 6 months
Yeah.
at Ernst & Young. And then Ernst decided that they wanted to get a little cutting edge, that how about if we look at, you know, profiling and maybe intrusions of systems and building systems and demonstrating technologies in a lab fabric across the country. And I was all like, that sounds very interesting to me. So I decided to take them up on that offer. And that was some of the beginnings of security. And when you look at those classes back in, I'd say the mid to late 90s, those classes of shifting Ernst & Young's focus and the folks that were in it, they're some of our inventors today of cybersecurity solutions. So we didn't know it then. We were just doing what we needed to do, something that was revolutionary, something that had some energy behind it, and it was later termed as security.
You know, I'm sorry, Lamont. I wanted to ask you a question because as you go through that, there's some lessons probably in the entrepreneurial part of your existence, but also you went to Ernst & Young. I don't know if you knew everything about what you were doing at Ernst & Young, but obviously Ernst & Young saw something. I mean, and this is a lesson that I'm asking you to share. It's not a self-horn blow, although, you know, in Texas we say if it's true, it's not, we're not, you're not bragging if it's true. But the
Yeah.
question is, you know, what did they see that they decided to take you and a couple of others, I'm sure, on that journey? What was it?
So I think it's the willingness to be open. You know, and there's a thing that I think we as young people, and even as we get more mature in life, we don't open ourselves up for opportunity. We're closed off. And I think when you are open, your people are able to talk to you about new ideas, new concepts, and then it becomes a dialogue, and you're able to give them feedback on how you think that this can benefit, you know, the company, benefit the people. It's a change of pace. So I think the openness and being willing to step outside of your comfort zone was one of the things that absolutely attracted them to me and others in this area. And then I think I've had young people tell me, and as part of their internship, they may say, "Oh man, you know, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't think this gets me to where I want to be." And you know, you ask them where you want to be, they say, "Well, I don't know where I want to be, but I don't think this gets me there." So I think it's that's another one of those testaments to say, open yourself up and see how you connect the dots where you want to be, because every experience is a good experience. I don't know if you've heard the term, no publicity is bad publicity. There's nuggets of goodness in it that you can take out of it and apply to your situation.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that statement about publicity. I mean, even bad publicity is good publicity, because if not for that bad publicity, your name would not be out there for people to become associated with. So, you know, you took a good path. You took the path that was appropriate for you, and you've made good of it. What's your, you know, first thing I'm going to ask you about that entrepreneurial experience? What did that teach you? What did you learn? How did that help you with critical thinking, or with the sense of urgency, or with any of the things that are necessary to move to the next level in any venue?
So I'll take a little levity out on this one as well, because I think everybody wants to be a business owner, because I want to work for myself. I want to set my own hours. I want to do the things that I want to do. I found out as an entrepreneur, boy, if you don't work, you don't eat. That's tough. So it gives you a different perspective on sense of urgency. It gives you a different perspective on completing the task all the way through. It also gives you a different perspective on perception. Your perception is not everybody else's reality. So you have to be able to step out of your comfort zone. Remember, I said I didn't want to work with people. So that means I'm very, very introverted in nature. I've changed a bit as I've gotten a little older, but that means that told me as an entrepreneur, I got to actually interface with people. I can't let the writing do the talking for me. I actually have to, you know, I'm in the service business too, in the coffee house. I got to shake your hand. I got to say good morning. Normally I don't want to say good morning. I just want to walk to my desk. You know, it's just those things that take you out of your comfort zone. And by me opening my mouth and having a conversation with people, people actually got to understand what I know, what I do. They talk to me about their you know, technology problems. Can you help me? You know, some people, you know, all of these types of things. And then you start to feel like, okay, you could be this connector, this conduit, because you opened your mouth. But if you hadn't opened your mouth, and you know, if you didn't smile, and you work behind the counter and say, "Man, take your order. What do you want today?" And you just give it to them and order up and go, you may have never gotten to know that person and know that other company situation. So again, stepping out of that comfort zone has been something that has been a hard lesson for me to learn. And whenever I get the opportunity to talk about it, I always push people, push yourself to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
One of my favorite sayings, you get comfortable being uncomfortable. This other point that you were making about moving from where you are, being comfortable, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, is it associated with having a roadmap or a plan? Because I hear and I sort of talk, and I get an opportunity to talk with a lot of folks that are going from where they are to where they want to be, or even from no place at all to where they want to be. And I think you and I will likely agree that in this business of cybersecurity and technology, you don't have to necessarily be a technologist. There's a lot of positions here. If you could be a good talker like me, you don't have to be a tech. Well, I'm a preacher's kid, so I come by it honestly.
There you go.
I come by it honestly.
Transferable skills.
That's right, sir. But it sounds like you need a plan. Can you talk a little bit about how your idea of structuring an approach or plan was like putting the proper bricks on the wall to build yourself the proper building that you can exist and work and live in?
So yeah, I think the world and industry tells you need to know what you want to do, and you need to have this elaborate plan and roadmap and execute. I am a bit conflicted with that path. I am more of, do you have a direction? Let's start with direction. If you have a direction, then there's milestones. At each milestone, you're going to learn something. Once you get several milestones up under you, now you got a foundation you can see. Now you can start to see the possibilities. The one thing that I'll say about cyber, and specifically when you start to talk about that, oh, what do you want to do in cyber? Many people say, I just want to, many people will say what they want to do is based off what they see. And the sensationalized profession inside of cyber is red team, is hacking, it's all of that. That's what you see. Every television show has a forensic cyber person that walks around with a keyboard like this, and then they're punching up a few things on through the firewall. It never works out that way, but that's what we show. It looks pretty cool. You get to come to work in a hoodie and a t-shirt, you do whatever you want to do. That's cool. And that's just not the way the world works, and everybody's not geared for that. I like transferable skills. If you are in the financial services vertical and you've been doing analysis work, well, you know what? You could be a data scientist if you really like that type of work. You could be a cyber analyst if you like that type of work. You know, if you're in the accounting department and you're working and you're applying for a cyber company, apply in the accounting department for the cyber company. You'll learn some things about cyber along the way. There's so many transferable skills because again, the world tells us that we don't have enough people in cyber. It's a shortage. That's why it's a negative unemployment. But I really think that it's more of we don't have the right skills. We're not looking for the right skills. We have people. We need to retool them. And in some cases, we need to demystify what cyber is so that everybody realizes that they don't have to be a hacker. You can be a developer, you can be a financial person, you can be a product manager, you can be a project manager, you can be a program manager. Again, all of these other verticals, transferable skills that we need to do a better job as leaders and hiring managers, look at and realizing that to help fill our skills shortage.
Talking on mute there, sorry. You had mentioned in one of our previous conversations the whole idea of one of your core interests is demystifying cyber. And then also, as part of the demystification, also this idea of exposure, access and exposure, because if you don't have exposure and then you don't have access, when you get here, it is still mystifying.
It's still pretty much a mystery.
Yeah. So if you had, let's just say Dave had $17 billion and he wanted to invest in Lamont giving Lamont the resources to change that paradigm, what might you do? Just, I know I'm maybe catching you off guard with that a little bit, but what might you do, Lamont?
Well, I mean, if you're giving me 17 million, I think we're gonna build a company, first of all.
That's first of all. We're gonna definitely be. We're already entrepreneurs, so let's do that.
That's right.
I get it.
We're gonna lean into that building of the company. But what I would do in that company that I'm building is I'm looking for to expose them. What does it take to build a company and all of these different departments I need? What's our product? You know, what are we trying to sell? You know, and I need people that can talk across all of those different conversations and paradigms. And I think we would build a successful company. Now, if it's truly specific to developing people, what I would do is come back to something I do with my team. I challenge my team, actually, my leaders and my team, and I challenge them to challenge their leaders, and then I challenge them to challenge their information workers. What can we do to expose those that are looking into cyber? So we work with apprenticeship programs, and we work with colleges and universities. We work with change of life. You may have done something for the last 20 years and either there was obsolescence that occurred or you just said, I want to do something different. I don't want to do HVAC anymore. I want to do cyber. So you go into a technical trade school. So we work with all of those different programs. And what I mean, and I'm going to further define what I mean, work with them. I bring them in the office. They sit in our office. They sit with our people. I can sit them with a SOC analyst, and you can actually see what the day in the life of a SOC analyst is. I can sit you with a red teamer, and you can see what they do all day. I can sit you with an application security professional, a GRC professional, a project manager. I have all of that in my team. I can sit you right there and you can see if this resonates with you. And then let's get a path. So milestone 1, direction. I know what you like now, and you know what you like. So let's talk about how we continue to develop in that. And we're even this year, we're starting to branch out in the high schools to go with juniors and seniors that when a school has said that they want to put computer science as part of the curriculum, that's only one part. The teacher normally is not trained in computer science as part of the curriculum. So what I've noticed is that there's outreach, and there's outreach in every community. There's an organization called the Security Advisor Alliance, which I'm a founding board member of. Again, I got hobbies. I do a lot of stuff out there. I got hobbies. And they have relationships with K through 12, high school, and really, again, exposing cybersecurity. So they bring leaders in, talk about the day in the life of a CISO. They set up what we call converge tours in different cities where we do capture the flag activities, and you're just bringing security leaders in the community. This is around the globe. This is not just North America, it's around the globe. And what you end up with, you build a relationship with these instructors. And when they're looking for, hey, I want to put this into my class, do you have anybody that can come, twice a week, maybe for 2 hours a week, and give them activities to do and stuff like that? So yeah, we are embarking this year on our first 12-week program with a high school, juniors and seniors around, and it's going to be teaching cloud security. So they will have I also am an adjunct professor at Washington University, St. Louis. I teach cloud security in the master's program. I'm taking that master's program content and concepts and moving it into a junior and senior level high school curriculum so that they get exposure to it and understand that, one, I know college is not for everybody, trade schools and those types of things. Some people that graduate high school are going to be ready to go into the workforce. I'll give Cisco credit where credit is due. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, Cisco did a great job of Cisco Academies where they poured into the high schools. And when you graduate from high school, you had a certification, you had some knowledge on Cisco routers, and you were ready for the workforce, and you made, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Good money. And then you figure out what you want to do and how you want to pivot. Well, we want to give those students the same opportunity. If they want to go on for higher education, well, they've been exposed to some really cool stuff. If they want to go straight to work, well, they've been exposed to something where they can go right to work and they can continue their education that way. Or if they just feel that that's the milestone they want to stop at right now, they're prepared and they're qualified. More importantly, they're prepared and qualified.
Wow, interesting. I got a lot more questions, Lamont. I just want to turn to the audience and see if anybody in the audience has a question that they'd like to ask. If you do have a question, please come off mute. And if you feel comfortable, come on screen and ask your question of Lamont. And it's a 5-second time frame there.
I'll start off with the first round of questions. First of all, thank you, Lamont. Thank you for making time to talk to us. Thank you, Dave, for setting us up. My first question is, what mistakes do you see with people trying to get into cloud security? There's so much information out there, so many resources, and sometimes I feel like you can just spin your wheels with and make no real progress or no real direction. So I just wanted to know what mistakes do you see people making trying to get into cloud security, and what would you recommend?
All right, so I'm getting ready to do an onion peel back on the word cloud and security and all of that stuff, right? Let's go back to you. You have servers. You understand data center concepts, right?
Yeah.
And you understand your home computer, your PC. You need to secure it. You need to secure data coming in. You need to secure data coming out. You need to secure how it's being processed and how it's being presented, right? That's cloud security. You're just taking it from a physical connotation to a what we call cloud and cloud curious, those types of things. I hate all the jargon. And even in some of my presentations, I turned cloud into the word could. It's the same word. You just move them around, and it messes everybody up. Like it's could security, yeah. It could be cloud. It could be legacy. It's the same. You're using conceptually the same things. You're just applying it in a different place. So if you're looking to secure an environment, your environment could be in AWS. It could be in GCP. Okay, there's a little specialization there. So now you can certify or get experience in one of those clouds, or you can look for tools that are agnostic. There are agnostic tools that will give you visibility and information into all of those different platforms, even Oracle and IBM, and now you get to analyze it across that. So what that does is that gives you a tool approach to cloud security. The other one gives you a vendor-specific approach to cloud security. But I think it's still, don't get so wrapped around the terms. If you like Microsoft and you're very familiar with Microsoft, I would say go and do some of the self-training in Azure and get better and more prolific around how do you secure Azure environment. Same thing with AWS. If you're more familiar with AWS, then AWS has a litany of tools and solutions that provide security as you build on top of their platform. And I would get more immersed into AWS. Now, many of these again, 3-letter acronyms of Google, or 4-letter acronyms, Google, Azure, and what's the other one now?
AWS.
AWS, there we go. Yeah, as you get more prolific in those, I would say if you want to be a specialist there, you could take the classes generally for free. You just enroll. And it's not very, that's not publicized a lot. And if you can't get it for free, here's the hack of all hacks. Go to a junior college, enroll in a cloud security class or an AWS class, you get a .edu address, sign up there for the .edu. .edus get it for free. So you can take those classes the same way in this curriculum base. You can choose, once you log into, say, AWS education, for example, you can take the path you want to take. If you want to learn more about IAM, which is Identity and Access Management, you choose that course, and it has a laundry list of different classes and different components that you take. It has the exam structure and all of that type of stuff. You can take it truly like courseware. It has labs associated with it, so it's not just theory. You're getting into some lab work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. Craig, did you have a question? Craig Walls?
Yes. You mentioned the Cisco Academy. Would you say that no matter what area you're going in, should you have a sound foundation in networking?
That's an awesome question. That's a great question. So if you're starting to look at innovation today, and this is where there's a lot of you'll see a lot of conversation and pressure around digital. I'm gonna use a buzzword, sorry. The digital transformation, which I'll call modernization of your company's infrastructure, of your company's the way they deliver products and services and solutions. Because every company today is becoming a software company. Every company today is going to be at least in one of those cloud service providers that we mentioned. And the one thing that's getting lost in this is the network. What is the new network as you modernize? Well, it becomes the internet. So when you say, do you need a strong networking background? I think that it becomes, do you understand networking foundationally? Because you're going to pivot into what this new paradigm is. Do you understand, TCP and IP? Do you understand the OSI model, which from my understanding, they don't teach that very much anymore, but it's the different layers. You'll hear network professional talk in layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and sometimes you'll hear about 8, which are all IEEE models for how data and transport get presented and at what level they operate. But that's as technical or as deep as you need to go, because you're going to apply those same skills whether you're in the cloud or whether you're in a legacy data center. So it's not so much learning about all the hardcore networking, knowing how to terminate fiber and 10 base T and 6E and gig going back forth. If you understand the concepts I just said, gig E is just, add a 0 to it. Goes a little bit faster. And then you add, you put another term on there. Hey, add another 0 to it. Goes a little bit faster. But
Okay.
conceptually, it's delivered the same way.
Okay, so a basic understanding of networking, and then you can learn as needed depending on what area you go into.
Right, because you're going to specialize on what your cloud service provider that you choose is delivering. But your basic and foundations around networking is going to help you translate what happened. You can say, oh, this is just packet transfer. I get it. Oh, we're using larger packets. I get that. Okay, now I need to understand how to deal with the larger packet. Makes a lot of sense now. Instead of coming at me with all of the different micro segmentation and harmonization of networks and flows, and you get lost in the jargon. Some people like to do it just for fun now.
Awesome, thank you.
That's a great question, Craig, too. And I appreciate you coming on and asking. His question also, Lamont, to me, begs the question about cyber literacy. Who needs it? Who should have it? Who has
Everybody.
it? Who doesn't have it? Right.
Everyone should have it, because we are such a connected world, and it's no longer, I don't think it's no longer acceptable to not understand at least what could happen to you or what is happening to you. Now, I'm not saying you have to know how to solve it. That's when you bring into other people, but you should understand, I don't know if anybody still uses Facebook or whatever, but if you go into Facebook and they give you this long end user agreement, you say, oh no, I just want to check in. I don't care. You click on that, you should know that they're anonymizing your data. They know exactly where you are. They're doing all these things. You agree to it because you just want to check in. And it's going to even get more, I think, important as you start doing AR and VR and all of those types of things. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying be aware of what you're consenting to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to pivot a little bit. First of all, thanks for all of what you've said so far. It's really really mind-opening and giving our audience something to really think about and learn.
I did have one question for you. I'm starting to read through the chats, and I know I'm not going to get through all of them before we get off the phone.
Oh,
But I'm
no.
scrolling through, and I do have to answer the question: do I like people? Yeah, I deal with people now. We're good, but it's somewhat exhausting. So I get into my introverted ways sometimes, but more or less than more. I mean, more or less than so. I get extroverted because I have to. It's part of my job.
And that's a good response as we pivot toward what you do today with Netskope, right? Netskope's got a couple of things going on. First of all, Netskope's got a brilliant team of technologists or a brilliant team of people from different areas, different walks of life, different ways. I mean, a whole set of different skill sets rolled up into a platform that is native to the cloud, right? Native to cloud, where other organizations are really building themselves out of the cloud and then really developing a whole cloud apparatus or a cloud approach or a cloud sort of persona. But Netskope is built in the cloud. And there's a couple of things that we talk about: New Edge Network, Zero Trust, the cloud, identity access, performance with security, meaning that you got to be able to perform at maximum speed, even if there was no security blockers, but have blockers there. I wanted to take just one phrase out of everything I've just said: Zero Trust. Just for the folks here, I mean, there's a whole bunch of terms and terminologies about what Zero Trust is and what it could be. Let's hear from you about what is Zero Trust. Just break it down for us for a couple of seconds there, and then I got some other questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest version because I agree, technical jargon, right? Everybody's Zero Trust definition is not necessarily going to be the same. So I'm gonna start off with the first one. Zero Trust means I trust no one. That is 100% true. I don't trust the user. I don't trust the device. And when you talk about, but that's not a solution. That's just like the concept. I don't trust anybody. And so when you talk about zero trust solutions today, and I'd say the way Netskope approaches it, and which I 100% believe is the right approach and the right definition, because it speaks to you. It's the right access to the right piece of information by the right person, by the right device at the time they need to use it. How can you grab that? So number one, you got to have visibility, you got to have context, and you got to know where the data is, and you got to know how sensitive the data is to allow controls to be put in place. We generate more data today than we've ever generated since computing has taken off. I think the one of the statistics is we generated all the data that we generated in the 90s, and say probably in January of this year. There's some weird statistic out there like that. I didn't have it ready for this one, but it's essentially saying we have so much data today, and we're continuing to generate data at a high rate, that you have to have some level of understanding what don't I care about.
Right.
And then the data that I do care about, you start putting these contextual security, I'll call them speed bumps. So if it's the most sensitive data, IP, that the company has and somebody wants access to it, yeah, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions as you get to that data.
Right.
If it's the pictures that we took at the company picnic, I'm not going to ask you any questions about that data because I don't care. You know, it came from it, you know, that's already in marketing, that's already approved, it's good. It's pictures, it's probably out on LinkedIn anyway, it's fine. But you have to have the right visibility to the user, the data, where they are coming from, what device they're coming from, and be able to apply control, the right level of friction, not all the friction.
Like that term friction, because that's sort of a statement about friction being slowing people down from what they typically want to do and can do. There needs to be some friction to help to slow the pace of going toward disaster. I mean, because you know, a couple of people, I mean to do it, I didn't mean to do it, and both are as bad one as the other.
And sometimes the friction, and so the friction doesn't get the negative connotation. sometimes the friction is in the path of coaching. It's like, did you really mean to go to this website? I've never seen you go to this website before.
Right.
And this is the coaching mechanism. So is there a business justification for going here? And what you find is 8 times out of 10, the person's gonna hit cancel. That's okay.
Right. 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 And that's the context. The context being, well, I've never seen you look at this before. And so, tell me, what is it that's of interest today that wasn't here yesterday, or your entire time with us? We don't have a ton of time, but I wanted to ask a question about AI. Right?
Yeah.
It's coming hard and fast. Sometimes it's, for those of us that don't really know all about it, it could seem like it's a threat. But and for those of us who have a real good idea or some good idea about it, it seems like a good enabler, and it seems like a disruptor.
Yeah.
What's your thought on this?
So I like AI.
AI, Alan
I
Iverson.
do. I like AI. I had to start with almost like everybody else. You all seen the movie, right? Terminator, Skynet. Yeah, we all there. We coming. It's all good. But no, in all seriousness, I do like AI. I think AI came on a lot faster than we thought. We've been doing machine learning and in its different stages and phases for quite some time, right? You have supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning. We're now getting to the point where decision-making capabilities are starting to become possible, which is really what we're calling the AI. It's helping us move faster. It's helping, but it can also have some security challenges. And what I think we are finally turning the corner of, how do we embrace it? Because it can actually have many use cases to make us work better, faster, smarter. We have to be very cognizant still of some of the data that we give it, going back to the context of zero trust, right? The most sensitive data I may not want it to have, but the most repetitive data, like helping people change passwords, helping people find the right support documentation that they're looking for, and for the right situation, stuff like that, absolutely. Making it, helping it to use me to help make the company more secure by sifting through all of these logs even faster than human, and I can move my human level up to a different skill set level. I think those are the right uses. So we need to embrace the use cases and how we use it and how we secure those use cases, and then how we secure the abuse cases. So going back to the context again with zero trust, how do we know when AI is abusing a security model that we want it to use? And that's when you start to look at, how do you block it, or how do you coach it?
Right. Right.
But I think there's
yeah.
several ways that it can be used to make a better and more efficient operation.
Yep. And for folks that are already in it, I think that we were talking earlier, Lamont. You said that it's going to help us redistribute, rechannel, change folks, and put folks in, reapply them, as you were saying earlier, reapply them to different areas that they should be focused on, because now AI could be doing this mundane, repetitive stuff. Should people that are coming into cybersecurity be concerned about AI, because it's replacing those repetitive, mundane things that entry-level folks do?
I don't think they should be concerned about it. I think we're going to move you up the food chain higher. The job is still going to be very much, cybersecurity is big. Again, going back to how we started this, there's so many different things in cyber. And when you talk about the mundane job, well, if they're doing the repetitive and mundane job today, that means they're not getting to something. Something's falling on the floor.
Sure.
Let's start to get to the stuff that falls on the floor that we can't staff and resource because we have so much going on with some of these repetitive things.
Sure,
So I think
sure.
there's a lot of goodness there. And when you talk about, well, if we're having trouble with entry level now, what makes you think that we're not going to have trouble tomorrow? Because you're talking about moving us higher up the food chain, so there's going to be more access and less experience. I think this is where it comes back to this exposure aspect of it. And I think every leader should challenge their teams and their leadership teams to provide more exposure to what cybersecurity is. And like I said, that's the day in the life, that's internships, that's externships. Those are, there's buddy systems and partnering with different universities, partnering with different schools. You have to talk about it. You have to show them. That's even taking, like I said, taking the initiative to maybe enroll in one of those junior colleges and get the EDU. If you're in a college preparatory at high school, you may still get an EDU, and you can go and take some of these classes and expose yourself so that when you come to the table and interview with these organizations, you have something to offer other than textbook knowledge. And that makes you more than just entry level. I call it entry level plus.
Right, that's right. Last couple of questions, but before I go there, does anybody have a question that they want to ask? I noticed Mr. Webb, you came on visible. Did you have a question? He said that didn't. Anyway, listen, Netskope, you and Netskope are a supporter of Cyversity. What do you guys, where are we going? What are we doing together? What's next? What's on the horizon? At least from your perspective, I know that it's probably bigger and grander. Yes, a couple of members of your team and I are going to be in New York, doing some teaching, doing some work with some high school students at NYU Tandon, right? So where are we going? What's Netskope went out of this whole relationship?
So I'm gonna answer it by I think we mentioned it earlier, and I didn't get back to it. So what do I do all day? I don't know how you phrased it differently, but I'll take that phraseology first. But so my job from a Netskope standpoint, being a chief information security officer, number one, I'm global, so I'm responsible for the entire company security posture across our corporate, our products, all of those other things. So again, any other cybersecurity functions and teams, security engineering, security operations, I have them in my group. So that's the primary responsibility. The other responsibility, or I should say the job that my company has wholly believes in it and has made it one of my responsibilities, is to get out into the community and talk about the exposure of not only what Netskope is doing, but what we can do for the community in terms of exposing them to cybersecurity careers, concept. It may not always turn into a job at Netskope, but I'll tell you, we have a wide network. It could turn into a job at one of our customers or partners. It could mean that networking, that you just met your next job, your next company, and you didn't even know it, by having these conversations and having us out there kind of teaching that this is what innovation, this is what modernization is. And we don't have a solution across every modernization plan, which is why it's more important. Let's get out into the community and talk about how we connect all these things together. Sure. And this is how we build an ecosystem of security solutions. This is how we build an ecosystem of security knowledge and application. And I'm afforded the opportunity to be able to do that and not be relegated to a desk and deliver those services and concepts to only my company. I get to do it with Cyversity. I get to do it with our university partners, and now coming online, our high school partners. I get to do it with my colleagues when we all get together and we do symposiums and we talk about technology. We talk about demystification and some of those things, and giving back to the community. My CEO is a firm believer, you give back to the community, goodness will come out of it. So don't worry about the initial impact or the initial outcome and all of that stuff. If you're doing it in the right heart, in the right spirit, in the right vein, goodness will come out of it.
Sure, absolutely. Lamont, I got to thank you very much for coming on and for speaking with the audience today. Folks that are here, I just wondered if anybody else had any questions.
I love the AI one. That was good. That was good. I remember Iverson too.
Iverson, absolutely. He's the one that broke Jordan down. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, Dio, go ahead.
I have a question. First of all, thank you, Lamont. I wanted to know, how do you ask for help without disclosing company proprietary information? Because sometimes you want to share about like something you're struggling with, but you're worried about the end result of, disclosing information. So I would like to know your take on that. Secondly, is you strike me like a guy who enjoys playing and tricking with machines. How do you get into leadership? Then lastly, what are your ways of explaining hard terminologies in a simpler way?
All right, I'll take the first one. Well, maybe I'll take the last one first. How about that one? How do I explain the terminology? I think that these terminologies and these acronyms and all of that, we take ourselves way too serious sometimes. And we forget that we can say things simpler and bring more people along, and in my opinion, take the ego out of it, and bring in the actual authentic. I want to help you learn it, and in order to help you learn it, I have to define it for you. And then once I define it, you can pivot any way you want. So it's all about having that foundation. I have an example of an organization at one time. They use the terminology of CPO. So what does CPO mean? I won't take a poll because I know we're on time. But CPO is Chief Privacy Officer, could be Chief Public Officer, could be Chief Product Officer. And when the person introduced themselves as CPO, everybody thought they were privacy, and they were not privacy. They were in communication. They were the publicity office, right? And so I think that sometimes we get so lost in all of that that we start to not be able to relate, and we make assumptions that are not correct. And if you had to just spelled it out, then we would have known who we were dealing with. That was just the example that came to mind, but there's probably several of them out there. But explaining things, I think, is how I take some of the more technical, jargon-ridden concepts and try to make them more humanized so people can understand it. And now we can have a conversation about what it is. I think your first question was, how do you ask for help? Again, I think it's removing the pride, removing the ego, and just ask for help. It's okay to ask for help, and you won't give up the proprietary thing, because you know what, everybody's getting attacked. You talking about I got attacked by something? Yeah, I get scanned all the time, and I say this one was a bad one. But how do you help me? Have you witnessed this before? How did you block this TCP? How did you block this? Type of thing. I think sharing and has become more of it was a tagline maybe in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. Then it was a motion, I think, toward 2015, 2018. I think we're actually just starting to get to reality where we're actually sharing now, because everybody has said the same thing. Okay, this is nothing special. This is happening to everybody. Read the newspaper. How can we help one another? How can we talk to one another? How can we have our teams engage with one another? I see more of that across my peer group and even the governments across the globe today than ever in history. And I'm sorry, Dave, what was your second question? I took your first and your last. I missed the second.
Yeah, the second question is, you strike me like a guy who enjoys playing and tweaking with machines. How did you get into leadership?
How did I get into leadership? So it was kind of driven by some of my entrepreneurial spirit throughout my life. And I wanted to be my own boss. Remember, I started with I didn't want to necessarily be around people. In order to do what you want to do, you got to lead. And so that was kind of the first leg up. If I want to do what I want to do, I got to be in leadership because nobody's going to tell me what to do when I get into leadership. I got into leadership, people still tell me what I want to do, but not as many people. So I think that's how I got into leadership. And I had a mentor that kept guiding me as well, you know, to get out of this introverted mindset, get out of this tool belt mindset, and start to really talk to people. You know, he said you're a relatable person. Talk to people. They have so much that you can, you know, you have so much to teach people. You don't even know it. He saw something in me when I was 20 years old, and he kept on me about, you know, you need to, you know, you took English in college, right? You need to use it. You need to write more, and you need to write as if you're writing this paper. You talk to people and you can teach them how to, you know, use this software and everything. You need to write and how to teach and get up and do instruction. And so he kept pushing me to do these things. And he said the other thing is that you have is compassion and empathy, whether you like to use it or not, because you don't like people, you have it. And once you start to do that, you can get people to trust. And if you deliver and demonstrate, they will follow you and respect you. And then you guys can accomplish so many things. And by you having those concepts, he told me that you'll be a natural born leader. So I took his word, and he also introduced me to some other people outside of my network, and I'll call that the sponsorship component that says, his name was Randy, and they said, hey, Randy, I see the same thing in Lamont you see. And they took me under their wing and they taught me a little more, and I started to like people a little more. You know, I charged up over the weekend so I can get to like people Monday through Friday again. And I ended up in leadership. I love it. It's one of the cool things where I get to share my life stories and share the stories of how I do my job, and hopefully I touch someone and they can actually use some of these lessons and make different mistakes than I made. And the only cost is do the same thing. Bring somebody with you.
Yeah. So, Lamont, it's in these situations, you still have a mentor?
I still have a mentor, yes.
Right. So it's never too late.
It's never too late, and it never stops.
So we should all be, you know, sort of take that to heart, that having a mentor and getting a mentor, even at the late stage or whatever stage, is
Hey
a
man,
good
I always liken it to something that I learned growing up with my parents. Is like, you think you grown? Life got something else for you. You think you're grown. So you think you don't need a mentor? Life got something else for you. You still need
Awesome.
one.
Awesome. Lamont, I can't thank you enough for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. I just appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes myself. And he's probably, when we talk again, some of these notes are going to come back towards you.
No, it's all good. This was an
yeah.
absolute pleasure. And I know, like I said, I didn't get to the chat, but would love to connect with everybody. My LinkedIn profile, I did see it's out there. Send me a note, let us connect, and we can follow up on some of your questions. But the non-technical question I do have to hit, because I did say I like food, and if I wasn't doing this, I'd be in culinary. So I'm a smoker guy. So I have a water smoker, I have an electric smoker, I have a gas grill, I have a charcoal grill. I don't have a pellet grill. Pellet grill is cheating. So we're going to just stay in those areas. So you can say I like to smoke cheeses, meats. I'm in St. Louis, so St. Louis, Kansas City, and Texas. We all got this religious war going on who has the best brisket. So I get down with that a lot. And Dave, when I come see you, we got a brisk off.
Absolutely, man. But first,
right.
I'm coming to see you. But definitely, you are so welcome here in Austin. When you come here, please let me know so that we can spend some time together with our chapter, with our groups, what have you, our families, or what have you, Lamont. Love to have and host you, period. If no one else has any questions, I'm going to give Lamont back the rest of his day and really thank him heartily for spending some time with us. I think this was a great conversation. And you guys know that we try to bring the very best of folks to come and talk to you about their experience, their journey, and how they've made it, so that you know that it's going to be a challenge, but it's not going to be something that you can't do, to be in the same space with folks like Lamont. Anyway,
I was gonna say, and as a closing, if I might, and one more comment, and I think this is very important. There are so many minorities in cyber and in leadership today. It's more than I've ever seen. So when you're talking about asking for help, that this is the right time, and you know, in cybersecurity's maturity curve, and in the entry of all of, I say, minorities and underrepresented in cyber that's in leadership, this is the time. They have forged the path into the leadership. Don't try to do a new path. Let's ride that one and then expand out into other areas, because some barriers absolutely have been broken. And we need to seize those opportunities, because there's a lot of folks that put in a lot of hard work with those, with getting on the other side of those. And why reinvent the wheel when the wheel has already been turning?
Sure. Absolutely. Before we go, I just wanted to give you guys a look at the certain survey link. I put it in the chat. I'll put it in again. But next month, following this great conversation, is going to be Olivia Rose. Olivia happens to be she happens to run or be responsible for mentoring program at Cyversity. So she's going to come on and she's going to bring a couple of her colleagues from the mentoring committee or mentoring group with her in our next conversation. After that, for September, Latino and Latino Heritage and Hispanic Heritage Month, I've invited a good friend of mine. Her name is Elizabeth Augusto. She's the Chief Operating Officer for Bank of New York, but also she's going to be one of our keynote speakers at Cyversity's upcoming conference in Orlando. Don't worry about the Orlando thing. I know there's a lot of conversation about about their politics in that region, but don't worry about that. We'll be having the right representation and challenging some of those things there. In October, Daniel Conroy, who happens to be the Chief Technology Officer for Digital in Raytheon, is going to be our speaker October 29th. And then lastly, because we don't do any work in December, we're getting ready for 2024. The incoming chairman of the board for Cyversity, Sharon Burgess, who is the SVP or the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, I spelled that wrong, for BDC, which happens to be budget travel. It's going to be with us November 18th. So looking forward to having those great folks follow this great guy, Lamont. I really appreciated your time, Lamont. You've been so kind and giving with us today. And you know, I'm going to leave the last parting comments, the last goodbye comments to you. And thank you again for your time with us.
Thank you for the invite. It's an absolute pleasure. And again, let's connect. I know there were some comments about connecting on some of the high school curriculum. I think it was Craig. Let's
Absolutely.
do that. Please reach out. I mean, I think I'm as open as they get. So I'm happy to share. And if you want to be a part of any of the initiatives and things that I've discussed, we're always looking for other partners. We can't do it alone. We have to build community in order to do it. So just let me know.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thanks. Hey, Eric, my Austin chapter partner. How you doing, sir? Did you have a question, Eric? Eric is new to cybersecurity, right? He's going to Western Governor University, just like Craig, and he's making his way through. He's really in Austin helping us build our Latino population of cybersecurity practitioners, women and Latino women and minorities in Austin. So thanks for.
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Yeah.
He'll be right back. We'll be
Bye,
right back after
everybody.
commercial break.
Thank you, Lamont.
Yes,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much, Lamont. All right.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank
David.
you. We'll
All right,
talk soon.
Thanks again, guys. Be well.
Bye.